Jalen Brunson has proven to us time and time again.
Dallas Mavericks have the #1 pick. Oh my gosh, no way! It's kind of looking like, my prediction of how, their playoff was going to be is kind of coming to fruition in a sense. And I don't like for that to be for them because, I love seeing small market teams, especially after the season that they had. But it's looking like their role players really aren't playing to the capability that they were playing at the beginning of the season or the regular season, Kind of main bulletin points from game 4. Defense on Jokic. That's really what, I was really impressed with, and just our depth. I've been saying that all season, but this game that's what allowed us to be in the driver's seat of this win, and then Shea in the fourth quarter.
They're completely playing through the two guys that they need to play through right now, and while they're healthy, the Warriors are not. I think Jimmy Butler's kind of on an island. Draymond Green had alluded to it, but he can drag a team to the NBA Finals, but it's just really tough for him to kind of be the engine of that offense, and he's just not really a three-point threat. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at 3-Man Weave. I'm your lovely co-host, ZD, in the building with CJ. We coming at you guys live on Monday, May 12th. CJ showing love to Thunder, obviously. But, man, we're just here to chop it up about some playoff hoops, man. We got a lot of game to talk about. CJ, how you doing today, man?
Oh, bro, I'm doing good after yesterday's win, bro. Can't complain. Wasn't the prettiest, but we'll talk about it. But I'm doing great, bro. And we have the lottery tonight. Got a lot of things going on in the basketball world. So always great to come up here and chop it up with you, bro. So yeah, feeling great, feeling good.
Good. I just want to shout out my cousin Jackson. He was saying he's been watching us for a long time. He loves the consistency. So
shout out to
just
Jackson,
want to shout
bro.
him out, bro. Yes. Thank you for supporting us, bro. That's real love for real, and obviously family love is important. But happy belated Mother's Day. Hopefully you guys, we're coming at you guys live after Mother's Day, so hopefully you guys got a chance to see your mom, at least call her. But for those who may not, their mom may not be around or you didn't get a chance, our heart goes out to you. But let's get into some playoff hoops, man. Let's get right into it, brother. We're talking about my foe, but we'll start it off right, man. It's the Knicks and Celtics. Obviously, this game 3 was, hey, I would say do or die, right? Like,
100%.
Think about it, bro. Like, 2-0, you lose at home. Defending champs, right? Let's not forget that. Right. I think people have forgotten that too a little bit.
I think so.
I be seeing all social. I'm like, bro, you disrespecting the defending champs. Anyway, they are that, right? So when you lose 2 games to the Knicks, who are really buzzing, honestly. Like, I texted CJ this. I think they could go to the finals. There's really no reason why they can't. Jalen Brunson has proven to us time and time again.
Dallas Mavericks have the #1 pick. Oh my gosh, no way! What? Hold on, bro. Sorry, I had to interrupt.
Nico Harrison is saved again.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy, bro.
Cooper Flag is going to the Mavericks, bro.
Going to the Mavs. We gotta go see him, bro.
That changes a lot of things.
Wow. Sorry, I just had to interrupt.
No, yeah, that's one of those for sure. Wow. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
That's wow.
Crazy. Wow.
That's gonna change the West, bro. Because if Kyrie's healthy, bro, and AD, I think Cooper Flag, like I told you, he made that decision very seriously and consciously. That's the word I was gonna use, but seriously for a little bit of a lighter word, to go to the NBA draft, and I think he's gonna love to play for Dallas, man. Especially with what just happened.
Dude, so that's like a perfect. They get another white guy.
Man, come on, bro. Honestly, CJ, this has been the craziest NBA season I think of my life.
Yeah,
of my life. Wemby led the league in blocks and didn't even play half the year. We got Cooper Flag going to the Mavericks basically, and obviously Luka Doncic. I mean, bro. Like, some of this stuff has been crazy, Dyson Daniels, like, everybody. This is just crazy, but...
wow. Sorry, I had to interrupt you on
that's
that one.
Crazy. No, that's all good, but the Celtics were just in a world of hurt, and I think the Knicks have outplayed them this entire series. I honestly think up until Game 3, they, in my opinion, were going to win this series. I think I've shifted back towards the Celtics. I'll explain why in a bit. But I think their consistency on the defensive end and then really their performance in clutch time. Like I brought up Jalen Brunson. He continues to do it. But yeah, facing a series deficit of 2-0, the Celtics responded dominant, man. A dominant win, 115-93. Peyton Pritchard, bro, what can you say, right? This is when you need the sixth man of the year. We've talked about him at length on this podcast, which is pretty cool because I think we've showed love to him. But he just keeps doing it at a high level, bro. And it's completely shifting kind of the way and the style that the Celtics play. Doris Burke mentioned this on the broadcast. If you guys were watching the game, you heard it. But the Celtics aren't going to stray away from who they are. Think about that.
No.
If you're watching the Celtics, they're gonna bomb threes. They aren't gonna shoot twos, right? Like they're gonna try to get layups and hit threes. And I think Peyton Pritchard is a perfect example of that. So that boost of 23 points gave him an extreme confidence going into this game. And I think that's really what propelled them to this win. Also, Jason Tatum showed up, bro. I think they went 6 of 6 from deep in the first quarter. Al Horford hit a couple triples, but Jason Tatum hit that 3-ball, held up his wrist. But I think he just looked like a different JT. He looked a lot more locked in, way more focused, contributed 22 points, 9 rebounds. I think he had like 7 assists too, almost damn near a triple-double. So, kind of proving the doubters wrong. And again, for people who may not know, he had that Game 6 performance against the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Just where he had that 50 bomb. And so I feel like people just kind of hate on him. Even me, obviously I'm a Lakers fan, but Jason Tatum deserves his respect, bro. And he had a great game in this one. Jalen Brunson was really the only Knicks player to contribute anything of value. I think he finished with 27 points and was pretty consistent on the offensive end. But when it's only Brunson and really not anybody else really contributing at a high level. And I think that kind of speaks to the Celtics defense. And I think they've been more consistent on defense really more than anybody right now. I think the games that they lost were super close. I think that also speaks to how they were performing in the clutch time. But they've had solid defense this entire series, and they played it last night in the Garden, and they were able to get this W. So they're looking good, man. Like I was thinking about it. Like I was telling you, I was like, man, the Knicks they have a chance to go to the NBA Finals if they're playing like this. But the Celtics really proved something to me. And I was like, I don't think Mazzulla is going to give up hope that his team is ultimately going to hit more threes than – what did they shoot, like 48% from deep in this game?
They shot 50.
50%.
20 for 40.
20 of 40 from deep.
The Knicks only got up 25 threes the whole game.
Oh, yeah. I think their style and brand of basketball is very slow, and I think at times they don't have the offensive firepower to keep up with the Celtics, and that's what it came down to ultimately. And they hit their threes. I think it's very simple, like you're saying. So, What are your thoughts?
Yeah, bro. I was just kind of piggybacking off of that when we know the team that the Celtics can be. They're the defending champs for a reason, and Mazzulla is not going to shy away from his type of ball. Mazzulla ball, and it's going to be getting open threes and, playing good defense. And I feel like that was exactly what they did, and it's hard to combat that whenever they're starting off hot from the game. And, once they get it rolling, it's kind of, they'll go through stretches of the games whenever they, kind of start not hitting their threes, but they had such a huge lead throughout the whole game. Really, it was kind of easy for them to kind of just stick to what they know, and they're not gonna stray away from that. They proved that they can win a championship, and like you said with the Knicks, whenever they don't have McCall Bridges or OG getting other buckets, it's hard for them to get their offense going. And I feel like one thing that I brought up was about Cat. He had a decent game. He had 21 and 15, but I just think he just hasn't been. It's been hard. It's hard for him to get it going. It seems like, because I think Jalen Brunson has the ball in his hands so much, because that's who you really want to have the ball in situations like this. But with him, it's if he's not knocking down his threes, it doesn't seem like he's really able to bang down low, which that's not really his game, but he can do that. But it seems like the Celtics are playing good enough defense to make him uncomfortable in those type of situations, So yeah, that's really it, bro. Like you said, Celtics hit their threes, and when they're
I also say I think Brunson and Cat out there on the same time, it's just a defensive liability.
Right.
I don't think Cat guards that well either, and I think the Celtics and Knicks have a tendency, they're switching everything. I know the Celtics do, and the Knicks have to as well. It's not ideal, but I know they're not trying to give up 73s, right? They know if the sub they have to blitz the screens a little bit, but I think it's interesting because yeah, I think Cat has been struggling a little bit, pretty much like he's been inconsistent throughout the playoffs. I think he had some good games against the Pistons. He had a decent game like you were saying in the last one, but going into Game 4, I think the Knicks are going to have to get more threes up. I think as simple as that. Uh, Jalen Brunson has been kind of the guy, and I think they're just going to have to spread out his scoring a little bit. So if he's
Mm-hmm.
able to score 20 points and get 12 assists, but obviously you got Miles Bridges, you got OG Anunoby, you got Cat, like you got these guys who can get 20 points as well. So I think it's going to have to be more of a collective team effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. It's it seems to me like at times they're just relying on Brunson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like, the Celtics are trying to do as well. Like, oh, if they beat us, it's gonna be because of Brunson type of thing. But and obviously they were able to scrape out those 2 wins in TD Garden.
I was gonna say you're gonna live and die by that sword, boy. Like,
Yeah,
sheesh, like that's a lot.
yeah.
Like I think JB is again, he's the clutch player of the year for a reason, and he's already won them a couple games in that scenario. So this game wasn't close, but I think if the game is close, bro, like I'm leaning Knicks still. If
Mm,
it's like a 2, 3 point game, I'm still gonna lean towards the Knicks. But I think the Celtics, if they're able to be dominant in this next game, coming up pretty soon here, I think in like now,
mm-hmm,
right now. Um, they're gonna have to, impose their will from the 3 point line and dominate on the defensive end, and this game won't be close.
mm-hmm,
It'll be another blowout. So hopefully the Knicks can get it done. I know their fans have been waiting for them to be in this position, and I think it's just on them to execute. But CJ and I have been keeping a close eye on this one, so it's been cool to watch Jalen Brunson kind of get his flowers, but he's just been a bottle of consistency since he came into the league. So I'm not really surprised at anything he does at this point.
mm-hmm. Yeah, facts,
Yes,
bro.
sir. Yes, sir. But going into the Cavs Pacers matchup on the other side of the bracket, how you feeling about this one, man? What have you seen in this series that's interested you? And then obviously we'll talk about the Cavs and their position, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, just kind of
It's a
seeing,
shame. It's a
after
shame.
especially last game, them going 3 up, and the prior game before, obviously the Cavs won that game, but um, it's kind of looking like my prediction of how their playoff was going to be is kind of coming to fruition in a sense. And I don't like for that to be for them because I love seeing small market teams, especially after the season that they had, but it's looking like their role players really aren't playing to the capability that they were playing at the beginning of the season, or the regular season. Ty Jerome isn't playing that well. I think he's averaging like 3 points per game in this playoffs, and it's pretty shocking, but I kind of assumed that was going to be the thing, just because of the experience, and obviously, kind of, going off of that, I just think the Pacers are, you know,
We're gonna
they're just clear, clear. They're looking great, bro. Like the way that they're clicking on all cylinders, that's what I was trying to say. But just their offense, bro. I mean, we've been
honestly,
talking about them all season, just kind of, the pace that they play at, no pun intended. But once they get it going, and Hallie is able to get everyone involved, that just opens up his game, and he's able to attack the rim. And when he's knocking his shots, it's it's kind of scary for whoever they're going against. And Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nemhard, Benedict Mathurin got ejected yesterday, but he's been having a great series. It's all they've
he
had this,
flopped like a mug on that.
bro. They've
He
been
just like fell over.
Yeah, I saw that shit, bro. I was like, oh, I don't think it is, but I mean, it is what it is. But it's just kind of, yeah, they just are looking like a more fluid team, I guess is a good way of putting
I
it.
like that
The
answer.
the Cavs, it looks like whenever obviously Spida got injured, hopefully everything turns out well. I don't like seeing one of our stars injured, especially in a situation like this. But Darius Garland is coming back from the injury. It looks like that's still bothering him a little bit, his toe injury, and then Mobley just coming back from the injury as well. It just kind of, when they don't have anyone out there, guard wise, and they're not able to get that contribution from the bench. It just looks like the offense is a little stuck in mud a little bit,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not really fluid. Guys aren't really hitting their shots either. So And when you're playing against the Pacers, it's easier. I mean, they had a 41-point lead going into halftime this last game, so it just kind of shows the type of offense that they're able to do. And I've been really impressed with their defense, honestly. I'm talking about how the Cavs offense hasn't really looked fluid, but got to give credit where it's due. And the Pacers are, they may not have a lockdown defender, or they might not have one guy that's just gonna hold like a paint presence or anything, but they play really good team defense, and they're switching, and it just looks like we talk about all the time, communication, right? And I feel like that's what they've been doing this whole series and really this whole playoffs, and that's why they're up 3-1 right now, and it's looking like Cleveland. I mean, I saw Darius Garland, what he said, bro. Like, this organization has done this before, but they had LeBron there, and they also had a team that is kind of not made for that, but the your
It was
best
built to last.
your player that could potentially have done that for you might not even play this upcoming game. So it's a lot of questions, and some of my questions have been answered, but it's other than that, bro. Pacers have been playing fantastic, and they're potentially going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals in back-to-back years, bro.
Yeah,
Crazy to think.
man, I was gonna say I think the Cavaliers are. There's two other teams I think gonna be including them, unfortunately, but I think there's two other 60-win teams that didn't make it out of the second round.
Mm. Was it the
I
Mavs?
don't know. I forget who it was,
I feel
but
like that Mavs team that got upset probably won 60 games.
oh, probably that might be one of them. I don't know the other team. I didn't see who it was, but
What
that kind of
was it the Hawks when they won?
you can look it up.
I'll
Look it
look it
up.
up. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Yeah, you can do it when I'm talking,
Yeah, I
but
got you.
uh Donovan Mitchell was putting up 40 points in this series, dude. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about, like he's been amazing, unreal stuff from him. Michael Jordan-esque stuff, changing, switching hands through the air, finishing. He's been able to keep up with the pace of play, like you're saying, no pun intended, every time. But I think the Pacers look way more fluid on offense. Um, they're just dominating this series. Simply put, I had my money on the Cavs, so I'm really disappointed. Uh, I think they've just gotten outplayed in every way, and their role players, like you're saying, they haven't been able to step up. I think, if obviously the Pacers won 129 to 109, so they beat them by 20 in this last game, and they responded, especially from losing Game 3. They outscored the Cavaliers like 42-16, I think, in the second quarter, and um, it's just crazy, bro. I think they set a franchise record, I think, in a quarter for assists in the playoffs or something like that. So, um, just kind of crazy. And Pascal Siakam, we haven't talked about him a ton on this podcast, but he's been leading the way for them, I think, in every facet of the game, defensively, but also on offense. And I think people kind of forget how good of an offensive player he is. I think he's averaging like 20 and 7 or something like this in the series, but on pretty good efficiency. And then Miles Turner, bro, deserves another gold star for the way that he's played. I think he's outplayed Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in this series, and that cannot happen, obviously, if you're a Cavs fan. But the fact that the Pacers are getting these types of contributions from Miles Turner just says a lot about the type of player that he's been able to become. And Andrew Nemhard and Tyrese Halliburton definitely help him. They increase his value a lot, but it just says a lot about the Pacers' belief in what he can do. So extremely excited to see where they can go. I think they're obviously going to finish the series out. It's one of the ones that are more lopsided that we have to talk about. So I just think it's just unfortunate for the Cavs season. I think I have a somber attitude right now because, like I'm saying, I had these guys going to the finals, but unfortunately, it's not looking that way. And they really got ran out of the gym. You know, um, the Tyrese Halliburton game winner to me seemed like a complete dagger to their emotional and really battle testedness, you could say, on kind of what they were going through in the season. It seemed like they had their head on right, especially getting that early series win against the Hawks, right? Or, yeah, it was the Hawks, right? Or the
Uh,
Heat.
Heat, Heat,
The
Heat,
Heat. Yeah,
Heat.
sorry, the Heat. They got it against the Heat, but I think whenever you shift to a team like the Pacers, who again went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, like they're solid. They're not. a bad team whatsoever, that's the time that you need your role players and other guys to step up. And unfortunately, they just had a ton of injuries, and that's kind of what led them to this kind of bad result, bro. So I don't know, man. I think Donovan Mitchell being hurt is kind of like the icing on the cake for the way that this series has gone for them. Um, they've gotten killed in the paint, especially last game. I think they were outscored easily in the paint, and then also the Pacers just from deep, bro. They just keep doing their thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. I
think they
got
were like out 58-32, bro,
Yeah, I
in the
think they
paint.
scored 58. Yeah, which is crazy
Like,
because they don't really have a type of player that they don't have like a Jokic or a Giannis. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They don't
like
have a
they're just getting a
dominant.
ton of paint touches.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this series has been about paint touches, threes, the way that they've run and sped up the game. I think we've said it a lot, but dude, they're just playing. The Pacers are playing the style of basketball. It's forcing the Cavs to play like them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cavaliers can't beat the Pacers playing their style of basketball,
Right.
simply put. So, unfortunately, I think the Cavaliers are going to lose probably in like they might win another. You think they're going to win this next game?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be Pacers in six.
Okay. How you think they're going to get it done? Like you think Donovan Mitchell's
Oh
playing
shit! Yeah,
for
that's a
sure?
good point. If Donovan Mitchell is not playing, then no, I don't think they will.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think he's going to try to go, but I don't know if
Where he
I think
how?
they have to get up. Really, their bench just has to show up.
Yeah, yeah. If
I think
like Max Strus, Ty Jerome, if any of those players go off, then they definitely have a chance. But it's not looking like it, bro.
and they're going back home, correct?
Yeah, they're going back home. Yep.
Okay. I think they'll win one out of the two. They'll probably split the pair.
Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see who steps up. I think it could be like an Evan Mobley 30 p, but somebody's got to give more than Donovan Mitchell. And we talked about him, man. I think he's now raised his career scoring average in the playoffs, by the way.
Hmm.
When we last talked about him, I think it's higher. So yeah, he's averaging like he's doing everything he can at this point. He looks exhausted too. I
Hmm.
think Kenny Atkinson, as the coach of the year, has no excuse not to make adjustments that are needed to win this game. So
Hmm.
I think when your backs up are against the wall too, you're gonna throw everything at the kitchen sink.
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
So we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. I have the 60 plus
The
win
stat.
teams that did not make it past the second round. It was the
Go ahead.
'07 Phoenix Suns. They lost to the Spurs in five. The '06 Dallas Mavericks won 67 games and lost in the first round to the Warriors. And then the '07 Dallas Mavericks won 67 games. Oh, no, I'm bugging. They put that shit twice. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's a two, like
Okay.
you said. Those are the two, and then obviously, if the Cavs end up losing
Yeah,
as well, yeah,
potentially makes sense. Yeah, that's not ideal to be
no,
one of those teams, right? So
it's not.
we'll see, man. We'll see. But man, you ready to get into this Nuggets Thunder series?
Oh boy, yeah, yeah, bro. Get.
Yeah, because this one is gonna take the cake for the podcast. I think this is like, to me, this was the best game on the board that we had. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So kind of just going off of that, bro. I'll start with Game 3, of course. First game in at Ball Arena. Boys started off hot. J Dub had one of the, I would say, probably his best playoff game so far in this series and or this playoffs so far. He dropped 30, but just it was going well, bro. It just seemed like the Nuggets just were just sticking around all game, and I think that's what this series is kind of showing me. And up until last game, it kind of seemed like whenever we're in those close game type of situations, we kind of fumble a little bit, and we're just not ready for the
like, you
moment.
don't
And
know
is
what to do,
right,
shell
exactly.
shocked and stuff.
And that's something with this team, I feel like a lot of people tend to forget, but they won a championship 2 years ago. So I feel like that's something that they're kind of battle tested in that sense. But they were just sticking around all game, bro. Aaron Gordon having a great game, series, playoffs this whole year so far, and that has kind of been their saving grace in a sense. Because Jokic, credit to the Thunder, have been playing defense on him very well. I think I told you that stat. it was 3 straight games that he shot less than 40% in his career. It's the first time he's ever
Yeah,
done that, and that's including postseason and regular season. So that hasn't really been
massive
the
sample size.
yeah, that hasn't really been the issue. It's not really guarding Jokic. It's just what other player on the Nuggets are going to step up in that game. I think it was MPJ, like we were talking about before we started. I think he was 5 for 6 from three. So, and he ended the game with 21. And then Jamal Murray, I think as well, he had like 27. But Jokic hasn't really been able to get it going. I think it's just our physicality with him. It's been causing him a lot of problems, and just also, we talked about it as well prior to us recording. It just looks like he's tired out there, bro. Doesn't you said it, JJ said it just looks like guys aren't in championship shape, and that's something
Yeah,
that in this series so far. I mean, I guess this whole playoffs really for Jokic prior to the first round because he was still doing his thing, but this series really just it looks like he's a little gassed, and in
I
situations like
get it.
this, it doesn't, if you're in the playoffs, you're trying to win a chip, right? And it just seems like he's just, not all there, I guess, on the
All the
offensive
time.
side. But
Yep.
yeah, it just, like I said, ended up going to OT game three. I was watching that with Cam, Kat, and Zach. So shout out to them. We were at third base. A little happy hour action, just trying to enjoy the game and with some drinks and
I
food
love that.
with your friends. But it was tough, bro. It just seemed like that they started hitting us with the little 2-3 zone, and that really gave us problems. And we just didn't. We looked a little lost out there. I think we scored 2 points in overtime, and we didn't have the best fourth quarter as well. They outscored us, and when you're away, and especially when the home team is just kind of right there with you the whole game, it kind of is. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's not
It's
good.
not a good thing, especially with that crowd cheering them on, and like I said, they just were hitting big shots when it mattered. And come OT, I think MPJ hit a big three, and then Aaron Gordon, like we were saying, bro, he's been really their best player, I would say, this series. So it's kind of that win or that loss was super tough. Was definitely didn't. I thought going into OT we would kind of figure it out, but like I said, that 2-3 zone, bro, it just kind of made us look like we didn't know how to play basketball in a sense, because it's like, you
You
said
haven't
it,
seen that. Yeah.
it's that elementary school stuff. So it's like, we know how to break a 2-3 zone. Why are we not able to execute? But I think just because we don't see it all the time in the league, and rightfully so. It's the best league in the world. You would expect people to play man, but at the end of the day, if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, type of thing. But yeah, we just that game was super bad. Like, we just didn't look like we had a good flow going. But kind of going to this game four, it seemed like obviously going into OT, and it was essentially a back to back, because I think it started 36 hours, but we obviously played a overtime game, so longer than expected. And then everyone just looked like they were just tired legs, really. I think we both teams, I think they missed their first like 24 or like 24 threes, I believe,
Boy, what?
maybe even more than
Yeah,
that, honest.
I think it was like 25 threes, like you're saying, like
Yeah,
combined.
ridiculous. But definitely wasn't the prettiest game, but was still a great game nonetheless. Was a very, I wouldn't even say defense, because it looked, we were both missing open shots. You know what I mean? Everyone was able to kick it out, swing it, and then they just weren't knocking down their shots. And I think the Nuggets ended up scoring 8 points in the first quarter, and
Yeah,
I think we scored like 23, something like that.
23.
So I know it was the lowest scoring first half of the playoffs in history. So another record that the Thunder are part of. Not the greatest one, but it's one of those type of stats. But yeah, bro, kind of going into the second half, I look like the Nuggets were kind of with us the whole time.
They were up.
We weren't able to hit shots. They started catching fire. Really, that second quarter, I think that's when they started going to the free throw line a lot. I think they were in the bonus with 8 minutes left in the second quarter. So any foul after that, they're going to the free throw line. And I want to say the free throw differential was like 23-8 or something at that time.
Jeez
So
Louise.
mind you, don't want to hear any Nuggets fans saying that Shea always gets
Yeah,
calls,
they're not
because
getting the calls
yeah,
and all that.
because
Yeah,
y'all got the calls this game. But kind of go rolling into it, right? Second half, pretty much the same, honestly. Not that great offense. We were coming back. It was like a boxing match in a sense. They would throw a hook, we would throw a fucking haymaker, whatever. I'm not a fighter, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't
bro.
know, but it
Uppercut.
uppercut. There you go. But it was one of those type of games. Just super intense, super stressful for me as a fan, just because
Level.
I remember I was telling you, bro, I like being in these type of moments, but not having to be in this moment just made me appreciate it in a sense. But we're definitely battle tested at this point, because I feel like that was a thing with the Thunder. I think I brought it up earlier. People were saying that the only time that we can really beat the Nuggets is when we blow them out. I think our point differential whenever we beat them is like 27 or something, but in
Mhm.
their every time that the Nuggets win, the point differential is like 3. So that kind of just goes to show the type of games that we've had with the Nuggets this season. It's when we win big, but when we lose, we're barely losing. And usually in that those type of moments is because of like the Aaron Gordon game winner, game 1, you know what I mean, and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Some
So
of the crazy stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So, but yeah, bro, it's I guess kind of just going into the fourth quarter, it seemed like our bench. That's what I meant to bring up. I kind of texted you and Cam because we have a little group chat as games are going on, just kind of jotting things down,
Sum
kind
it
of
up.
like
Yeah.
bullet points that we were probably gonna bring up in our pod and stuff. And one of mine was it was looking like whenever Shea was on the court, like our offense was a little like stagnant a little bit, and that's crazy to say. MVP player, best player on our team for sure, but I think that it goes to show just kind of what our question that we had before, that prior to the playoffs starting, is it better to have depth, or is it better to just have a superstar? And that was a great example of this game, what it is like to have a good bench, because I think Case and Wallace ended up hitting 3 threes in that fourth quarter. Aaron Wiggins was hitting, threes as well, and that's kind of what got us going. And just that being said, Shea was able, whenever Shea came in, this was kind of like his legacy game in a sense. What can you do? What you're the MVP of the season more than likely. What can you show to prove us that this is why you are that? And I think he did a great
Yeah.
job.
I like that.
He might not have dropped 30, right, but it was timely buckets. And just kind of I think we ended up getting ahead by 10 or something in the fourth quarter. It was like something around there, 9, 10, something like that. And he was just hitting big shots. He was getting to the rim just because they were getting out of their zone in certain situations. And the easiest way to beat that is to kind of speed up the pace of the game. Don't let
Yes,
them,
sir.
don't
Get
allow
out and
them.
run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what we started doing towards the fourth quarter. And it kind of just goes to show, kind of it proved to me that we can get it done even when it's a nasty game, nasty performance, because usually, like I was saying, that
Exactly.
anytime we were beating them was by a lot. So kind of just going off of that, bro, it was super stressful game for me. Like I said, wasn't the prettiest, but at the end of the day, I think we were able to kind of prove some of our doubters wrong. Obviously the series is not over. It's a it's 0-0 at this point, best of 3. So I think it was great momentum going into this game 5, being back at Paycom Center and just kind of feeding off of what the bench was able to provide away, and going in, to a home game. The role players usually do a lot better whenever they're home, because they shoot a
Yeah.
lot better. They're
Yeah.
able to just kind of shoot better percentage shots. So I think that that's gonna go into this next game. But yeah, bro, it was super
I love that.
stressful. But nonetheless, I think it was
Good for
just
you.
goes to show the type of defense that we have, the fact that we're able to hold Jokic to the shooting. He might have, I think he dropped 27, whatever it may be, but the field goal percentage is really what stood out to me, because he has not been shooting effectively. And even when he gets like the typical like hook shots or little floaters that he's been doing, it hasn't been as easy for him to knock those down. So I think it kind of just goes back to what we were saying, or what I was we were talking about earlier, about just being in championship shape. And you know
Yeah,
more power to them because I saw that Shea looked like he was a little gassed as well. So it's not just the Nuggets, but
it's
we
everybody.
we we
Yeah,
thankfully are able to have 8 9 man rotation, so we kind of get to let them sit for a little bit. And in the Nuggets case, they're like 6 7 deep, so they don't really have a
yeah,
lot of
they're
bench
exhausted.
contributions. So I think
Oh
kind of
God,
main bulletin points from Game 4: defense on Jokic. That's really what I was really impressed with, and just our depth. I've been saying that all season, but this game kind of that's what allowed us to be in the driver's seat of this win, and then Shea in
man, oh
the
man.
fourth quarter. So yeah.
Man, I love hearing you talk about your team, man. I was smiling from ear to ear. I'm sure you saw it, but yeah, game three. I think it was the J-Dub game, man. Just started off hot. I don't know if you brought him up, but can't forget about him. I think that was really cool to see, especially on the road. Obviously, whenever you're playing at home, it's a lot different. But for him to start off like that, it was pretty cool. Obviously, they didn't win game three. But that's neither here nor there. It was a seesaw throughout the game. I think the second half, Denver was able to operate through Nikola Jokic in game three, but he was struggling with his efficiency, like you brought up, man. Just battling in the post with Hartenstein and Caruso and Lou Dort. And I love that, man. I think the Mark Daigneault has made the right adjustments in this scenario that are going to pay extreme dividends for them. And I think it's bothering Jokic to no avail. I think even his body language when you brought up championship shape, he's been complaining a lot more in this series, and obviously he's getting fouled. I think they're making it a really key point. We're going to bother the shit out of him, maybe even foul him to make sure that we're in his head. And I think the Thunder are doing a great job of that. But he's been missing like bunnies and shit too, like
Hmm.
layups, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. Oh, all right, all right. But Jamal Murray, man, just game three hero. I think the mid range attempts just contested. He is probably the best, and I don't know. You could agree with this, maybe not. Besides Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, he's probably the second best tough shot maker we have. Just at his size, he can hit shots fading away. I mean, Curry too. You guys have seen it, so obviously we could debate about this all day. But watching Jamal Murray in the playoffs hit contested jumpers in the mid range is a thing of beauty,
Hmm.
and he was able to do a lot of that in the second half. And I think that's what they need from him. We brought up Aaron Gordon kind of being the main X factor. He's played extremely well too. He wasn't contributing 30 points, but his 20, his 21, his 22 points, bro, that's more than enough. It's probably more than what they were expecting. So Jamal Murray had 10 points in overtime as well in game 3. I think late in the fourth, obviously, I think OKC was leading whenever they were going into this like a fourth quarter to get to overtime. Aaron Gordon was able to get a huge three ball right to kind of tie the game and swing the momentum. Giving them that boost into OT, and then Jamal Murray really took that and ran with that. Game 3, it really is the Jamal Murray game. I think it just that's what they were able to get from him, and then it obviously paid out in a win. I don't think they're going to get that Jamal Murray game every game, though, because the Thunder have the defenders to be able to keep up with him. Uh, I also wrote down that in this one, it seemed that Shea was timid.
Hmm.
You didn't bring it up, but he didn't score any points in overtime, and he played.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if he shot. Maybe he only shot like twice or something, but it seemed to me that he was playing pretty timid in this last period of overtime in game 3. And I think that's why he came out with the performance that he had in game 4, right? Um, so, yeah, not scoring any points in overtime for an MVP candidate, it's obviously unacceptable.
Hmm.
But starting off with that, he finished the game. You might have seen the clip smiling about it, walking off the court. I think that was interesting because it kind of showed me the type of energy that they were going into game 4 with. And Chet Holmgren has played an extremely good series this entire time. He's been healthy too, really battling and giving them what they need on the offensive end as well, and on defense, more importantly. I think he's been their anchor. But he came out blazing in game 4, and just, again, setting the tone for how the game's going to go. Running, he does these things where somebody else gets a rebound and he sprints to the other end of the court, bro, just because he knows he's gonna get a dunk. I think that's awesome, bro. Like we need more of that for sure. But yeah, no, game four was really, really muddy. I think like you already brought up, I think they were like 0 of 24 combined their first, 24 threes. Obviously, that's not a good number, but it really reminded me of 90s basketball.
Hmm.
I think I wrote it down in my notes. This 2090s 2000 style of basketball is what I like to see. Great defense, obviously not so good offense, and that's kind of what you got in this game. Um, the Thunder were able to keep pace with them in terms of their defensive ability. I think the Nuggets really rely on their offense to kind of win them games. And whenever obviously you have the best defensive team going up against they're a pretty good offensive team, but they're not the best offensive team in the league. You're going to get certain games like this where nobody can hit anything. Aaron Wiggins and Casey Wallace, wanted to give them a shout out. I think they both contributed 11 points in Game 4, and that to me is really why they won that game, is because they got some contribution from the bench. CJ already brought this up, but the Nuggets don't have anybody on their bench that can provide them value right now, and that's an issue. I think they should look into playing Julian Strawther more and leaning into their bench and seeing maybe even what a DeAndre Jordan can give you. Like again, Peyton Watson I think has been awesome, but I think it really just came down to, Jane Dub didn't have that great of a game in this one. Alex Caruso, I think, bro, like what, two big massive back-to-back triples, picked Jamal Murray in the open court. Like he was everywhere in this game, and it was awesome to see. I think another reason why the Thunder, just their genius for getting, he kind of plays like Manu Ginobili a little bit in my opinion, just the right-handed version, just bothering everybody and being a pest on the defensive end. And I think Alex Caruso also had a great game. I think what did he finish with? It was like
10.
yeah, 10 points, steals, just doing everything on that side of the ball. So I think it really, Jokic right now is really struggling, like you had already brought up. He's really going through the worst shooting stretch of his life. You posed the question, but the Thunder just have more depth, and that's why I'm picking them to win this series, is because I think ultimately Nikola Jokic looks exhausted, and when your best player is struggling from the floor, it's gonna have a tendency to bring the other guys down. As crazy as that sound, just people are gonna be like, well, oh, if Jokic isn't shooting well, like
Hmm.
and that's honestly true. I think the Thunder play kind of banshee defense. Everybody gets hands on basketballs. They have really long arms. Jalen Williams has a 7'2" wingspan, so they really can stick anybody on Nikola Jokic, and they've been playing them with five guys, and I think that's why they've been winning. They won, you know, in a style of basketball that fits them. They didn't stray away from who the Thunder are. It wasn't like they started like, oh, we're gonna shoot 83s, try to change the way that we're playing. Like, nah, they stuck to it, and I think that's ultimately what got them this win in Game 4. With the series tied, bro, just going into Game 5, I think the Thunder are in position to finish this out, like you said, in 6. I think they can win these next two games at home. Whenever you come back. Uh, I hate how they don't call it Chesapeake anymore.
Me too. Me too,
I
bro.
think, I think, whatever. But Paycom, I think that's a lame name, but Paycom Center. Whenever you go back there, it's home. These guys are used to it. It's where your bench players play their best basketball, and I think the Thunder are in prime position to really take over this series. It's very simple. I think if they can go out there, continue to play the defense that they've been playing on Jokic, and then have even more bench production, I think it's going to be scary, bro. So don't count the Thunder out. I think the Nuggets, to counteract that, have to lean into Jamal Murray and Jokic two-man game. I think even at this point, it should be the only option coming down the floor. And if the Thunder figure out a way to stop it, that's fine. But you just want to die on that hill. You don't really want to be having Aaron Gordon be your leading scorer, like no, no, no. You want to die on your hill, playing the best possible players possible, giving them the most opportunities to be successful. I think they won the game whenever Jamal Murray had 27 points. Jokic is still going to get 20 points. I think their free throws too. Like I didn't bring this up, but I think Game 4 is the reason why they lost is their free throws. They're going to have to hit their free throws. If they want to stay in the game, it's going to be extremely important that whenever they're in the bonus or they get a foul shot, they hit it, bro. Like it's not a game that can really cost you at the end of basketball games whenever you missed 8 free throws and you lose by 2.
Hmm.
That's always the most frustrating. So, I also think they have to get better shots. It seems to me like, I didn't bring this up either, but in game four, they attempted 45 threes, which is a Nuggets playoff record, by the way. They only hit 10 or 11.
Hmm.
So the night or what the Thunder hit 10 or what
Yeah,
were there 10 of yeah, so the
10 for
the
41.
yeah, I had it switched, but horrible shooting game. I think they have to lean into really like being hyper efficient, being the Nuggets that we know, playing through Jokic. Everybody's touching the basketball. I think they should play Strother. They should play Peyton Watson. They maybe should even play DeAndre Jordan, but they need to give some other guys rest for them to have a chance. And I think the Thunder have played at an extremely high level this entire playoffs. To me, this has been the best series just from basketball standpoint and honestly, just from a skill standpoint, I think watching these MVP candidates go at each other is extremely exciting. And I think whoever wins this series is going to ultimately decide the MVP. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, bro, I agree.
For sure. Yeah, no, but that's the Thunder and Nuggets series, man. I'm excited. We got the game coming on tomorrow,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, sir.
So, what time do they play? Is it a late
It's
one?
the late one. Yeah, I think it's like 8:30.
Yeah, it's a late one. Okay, well, I'm excited to watch that because I know how the Thunder are going to play. They're going to lean into their defense. They're going to play nine guys. I think Jalen Williams, the other J Dub, yeah, has been awesome too,
Hmm.
being able to guard Jokic and giving him fits and then like hitting occasional threes. It's like, whoa, okay, like the Thunder are a serious problem, bro. Like they have a serious chance of winning the NBA Finals this year, and I'm excited for Game Five. It's a big one. It's
Yeah,
probably the
yeah,
biggest game of the season.
yeah. I was just about to say that, bro.
What you think?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest game of the season, man. Especially being down 2-1, get still in that one away, and at Ball Arena, and then coming back home. Yeah, like you said, it's in our what'd you say? Sorry, it's like in our control.
In the basketball, yeah,
Yeah,
it's in your destiny, bro, and it's within your
destiny.
style of basketball.
Yep.
Yeah, like I like how the Thunder play similar to the Celtics in a sense that Dagnall doesn't stray away from who he is. Calling the timeout,
Oh man.
just some like odd, questionable things, but it's just the way the Thunder are, and they were able to get a W, man. That's all that matters. I think, like you said it 10 minutes ago, but being able to win muddy is really important in the NBA, and I think the
Hmm.
Thunder were able to answer some of those questions that their doubters may have had about can they do this? What if Shea is struggling? Who's going to step up? J Dub's been there, Chet's been there. I think Hardenstein has been there too with his little push shots. Yeah, that's been awesome. So they just have so many guys that can hurt you, and the Nuggets really have to lean into what they have on their bench. You have to see what Strother can give you. Ask them to take 10 threes in a game.
Hmm.
You never know what might happen. So I think they're just going to have to do a better job of changing up the game plan. Coach Adelman's just going to have to respond to how the Nuggets or the Thunder are guarding Jokic too.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, for
perfectly
sure.
said.
But yeah, man. But Anthony Edwards, brother, killing them, man. Warriors and the Timberwolves. What you think about this, man? Were you able to get a chance to watch Game Three?
No, actually, I wasn't. I was able to watch a
Yeah, I
little bit of
didn't.
it. But I saw Ant went crazy, and obviously with Curry being out, it's been kind of what is the Warriors gonna do exactly? If do they have enough firepower to keep up with the Ant really and kind of their defense? But no, I wasn't able to, bro. So
Yeah, no, no, no. It was solid, man. Ant struggled in the first half, but he ended up getting dunked on, and he brought this up in a clip. But Jonathan Kuminga dunking on me, man, set me off. And I think that's, after a slow start, he ended up finishing with like 28 points in the second half to give him 36 on the game. And, bro, whenever you're getting Julius Randle contributing at this high of a level, 24 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, I think his first playoff triple double ever. Um, they're completely playing through the two guys that they need to play through right now. And while they're healthy, the Warriors are not. I think Jimmy Butler's kind of on an island. Draymond Green had alluded to it, but he can drag a team to the NBA Finals. But it's just really tough for him to kind of be the engine of that offense, and he's just not really a 3-point threat. And so
mhm.
the Warriors don't have the supporting cast to really not have Stephen Curry in the lineup. And I think the Timberwolves defense has been smothering, only giving up 97 points again. And I talked about it a month ago, but I thought it was kind of fraudulent. It's not. I think they've defended well pretty much during this entire playoff series. Nas Reed too has added extremely valuable contributions off the bench. And the Warriors were led by Jimmy Butler. He put up 33 in this game. I think he has been extremely consistent this entire series and really this entire playoffs since they made that trade going back into the regular season. But without Steph Curry, I think they're just missing that piece that really gives them that oomph on offense. And sometimes, Steve Kerr has been reluctant to lean into Jonathan Kuminga, and I think that needs to change. Draymond Green really is kind of just going crazy right now. I don't know if you've seen it, but he's kind of just hitting everybody. Like, I don't really know what's going on with that. Flagrant fouls left and right. I think it's just the excuses for him have piled up, and they just need to look for another person who they can also believe in and believe that, like, they can contribute value to the Warriors culture. And I think Jonathan Kuminga's right there, but they're still not leaning into that. So I think whenever they get him involved is when they're at their best, and so they just weren't able to really do that in this past game. I think he was doing well, did much better, scored a lot more points, but throughout this series they haven't given him enough value, and I think Steve Kerr needs to look into that. But the Timberwolves, bro, they're just playing so fluid. They're playing their style of basketball. I think that's what's allowed them to really break the Warriors down right now. And whenever you don't have Steph, bro, it's just so glaring. I think the Warriors are probably obviously Steph Curry is an NBA legend, but whenever Steph Curry's off the court, they're probably a bottom five team in the NBA, bro.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being honest with you, Kevon Looney is great, but he's not gonna be able to do much if you don't have that light skinned guy running back there and shooting threes. And just all of their players kind of play better when Steph's in the lineup too.
Mhm.
And so I just think they need to get him back. I don't know when he's supposed to come back. You can check. I think what was it was like a grade one hamstring strain that I had in my notes. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think his timeline is going to be interesting. But the Warriors just look like they're relying on Jimmy Butler, and again, that only can get you so far. And I think the Timberwolves look like the more complete team at this moment. But I still think the Warriors are going to win a few games, man. I don't think they're done at all. I think Jimmy Butler has the firepower to be able to get them another win or two. But this series is super close. But I also haven't watched a ton. I saw Ant kind of go off, and he had that dunk over Kevon Looney, which was super cool. And I think they're just really leaning into the way that they play. Just try to shoot threes, play great defense, and then ultimately let Ant do what he's got to do. If the Warriors try to double, he's gotten a lot better about making decisions off the pass, even coming off pick and roll and being a contributor in that regard. I think the Timberwolves right now, to me, are the favorites to win this series. I was going to ask you, do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think if Steph Curry's out of the lineup, I think the Timberwolves can win this in 6 or 7 games, and they're going to the Western Conference Finals, for the first time, I think, in a long time. I know in
Uh,
Ant's career.
they went last year.
Yeah, they did. They did. They lost to the
The Mavs.
uh Mavs. Yeah. Damn, man. Yeah, Luca got that game 6. What was it over Gobert, huh?
Gobert. Yep.
Yeah, they're going back. I guess they'll go back, bro, with a new team, new people. Like that's kind of crazy. But it's just like they were able to make it work, and I don't really know how, but there they are, and they're right there. Like I didn't even think about that, but you're right. They went last year. The Timberwolves are really like one piece away from being able to go to the finals. It's crazy because they didn't have that great of a regular season, but I think that they've also gotten a bit lucky with the playoff matchups. Definitely have faced the weaker opponents out of the Western Conference, which is lucky, but still no fault to the Timberwolves. They still been taking care of business. Took care of my team, and now they seem like they're going to beat the Warriors too.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they say Curry could return in Game 6, which is scheduled for the 18th. So if he does
Okay.
come back, it'll be then. So they gotta win. They gotta win without him. So.
We'll see, man. I don't know. I think the Timberwolves also play a style of basketball that's very physical,
Hmm.
and I think Curry's already been through a lot with the Rockets series, already going 7 games. Now this series is probably going 7 games. It's just extremely tough for me to see how these two teams, even if when it, which because whichever one is going to the Western Conference Finals, but I think they're going to face the Thunder,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that just like I don't think the Warriors, the Timberwolves are going to beat the Thunder, but I could be wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah, not a ton. Who else did really well? Let's see on the bench.
It was really just Kaminga. Kaminga dropped 30.
Yeah, Kuminga did have a great game. I alluded to that earlier. I think this
Mm-hmm.
is the first game that they let him go off, though. I said that, like, where is that? Whenever Curry's hurt, like, that's probably somebody you should be leaning into. And this is his first game in the playoffs where he's had a performance like that, and he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Warriors need to lean into that a little bit more. But looking at the box right now, yeah, it was just Kuminga who played 36 minutes off the bench. They had 6 other points between their combined bench players, so they don't have any bench scoring right now. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, the Warriors are hurting a little bit. But um, what do you think about this series, man?
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's just one of those, like you said, unlucky things for the Warriors. They've been doing great up to this, up whenever that Jimmy Butler trade happened, and then just Steph getting injured. Like you said, it's shines light on the team that they really are, and not saying that no, yeah, you said it. They are probably like a bottom team in the league whenever Steph
Yeah,
isn't playing,
definitely,
and I think
definitely.
that is definitely something I've been noticing. Draymond isn't really able to contribute on the offense side of the ball, and even when he isn't able to play make as well
Oh my
either when
God,
you don't
you're
have some.
right. I didn't even bring that up. He's a zero
He's a
sometimes on the
zero, bro.
offensive side.
Yeah, he had two
Can't have that.
points, two
Can't have
points.
that.
But yeah, like you said, the Timberwolves have gotten obviously come playoff time, whoever is able to win and stuff, it doesn't matter, but they have
Yeah,
definitely
it's
had a
different.
pretty easier road, I would say, especially with Curry getting injured. I feel like if he wasn't injured, it'd be a different. We'd be talking very differently about this
Scenario.
series right now.
Yeah,
But
and Buddy Hield's been good too.
Buddy Hill's been doing really good. I feel like that's something we definitely didn't talk about. He had that game they won, right? I think he went off.
Yeah, we mentioned he had a good game last game too, like you're saying. I think he's been way better, but it's tough because Buddy Hield is like he just needs that running mate. That's what Steph is, bro. I think if Steph was in the lineup this other game, they would have won easily. I think it's a completely different scenario whenever you take him out the game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Steph is like God there, bro. Like if you don't have like if Steph wasn't on the Warriors, it's the Warriors are nothing. And I
Hmm.
think they're trying to go through Jimmy Butler, and I think it's working at times. But I also just Kaminga to me is the X factor of it all. Can he be and like pods sometimes, right? But like, can Jonathan Kaminga really? Because the Timberwolves have that. They have the Nas Reeds, the Dante DiVincenzo's,
Hmm.
Jaden McDaniels. Like they have pretty good depth, I would say.
Hmm.
That kind of allows them to switch everything, be interchangeable, and not really be worried on the defensive side of the ball. But I think the Warriors have some defensive liabilities. They've played great defense in this series, though. I think Draymond Green is a defensive plus, but they have so many guys that don't contribute much offensively. I mean, Kevon Looney too, just zero. Moses Moody too, zero.
Hmm.
Only getting 3 minutes in this past game. Like, what? I think sometimes the Warriors' rotations are also kind of out of whack, but that's neither here nor there. I'm excited to see they play tonight, so
Yeah.
we'll see kind of what happens in this game. I think look for Jimmy Butler to get you 50. He
Yeah.
knows he's going to have to go put the team on his back and force double teams. And that's what I had in my notes is if he can get them the 40 points that they need from Jimmy, they're going to win this game. So no worry, no, don't panic on the Warriors side. You just got to win one more, and then stuff will come back.
Yep.
Yes, sir. But bro, let's get into this draft lottery. Like I've been itching. I want you to go through it, bro, because I just I don't
So
know. I'm so excited.
crazy. Obviously, we
Okay.
we broke the news right when it happened. Dallas Mavericks number one pick.
Oh, that's like
Obviously, Cooper Flag to Dallas is gonna be crazy. Number two, Spurs, bro. The Spurs jumped. They
wow.
could they could have had Cooper Flag on that team. That would have been crazy.
Dude, they're gonna be so good. They're
They're gonna
gonna
be
get like,
good.
yeah, they're gonna be good.
Number
No.
number three pick, 76ers. We weren't able to get that pick.
Wow. Good
They
for them though.
they jumped
They
up.
deserve
Shout
that.
out to them. Hornets, fourth pick. I would say they're probably not the
Disappointing.
loser, but of course, like they had top three odds, more than likely 14% to get the number one pick.
Oh,
Um,
we.
fifth or sorry, fifth Jazz. Jazz dropped to five. Tough luck. Hate to see it.
Okay, that's the one. That's the one that's tough. I mean, bro, you got Dylan Harper, Edgecombe, Kamal Malawak. Like, there's so many dudes that will go after Cooper.
Wizards as well dropped number six. So two
Oh,
two of the three teams that were top three more than likely ended up dropping out of the top five. So crazy. Nets end up get or Pelicans end up getting the seventh pick. Nets get the eighth pick. Raptors get 9. Rockets get 10. Trailblazers 11. Bulls 12.
well, Bulls.
Hawks 13, which ends up being to the Spurs, and then the the Spurs dropped. They ended up getting 14.
Wow. Okay, so that was their main. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, that was the lottery.
They're
So
fine. Yeah. Wow. The Spurs have 3 lottery picks.
hmm
How do you feel about this, man? How do you feel about Cooper Flag in the Mavericks uniform?
it's kind of crazy how I feel like this shit was rigged, bro. That shit is crazy because after everything that's happened to the Mavs this season, fire Nico, get rid of him, this and that. I feel like now they're in a perfect position to be able to, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag.
You
What?
got you got a small window, but it's there.
It's
My
there,
goodness.
especially obviously they have PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. They have
Yeah.
a solid team, but adding Cooper Flag to that, people were saying generational player. I know I asked you this at the beginning of the season if he was. What would you say he still isn't in your eyes?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think like I said, I think I said it when you asked like Wemby's generational, bro. That's
Right,
like you will not see that
right,
again in your
right,
life. There's a chance you might see another version of a Cooper Flag, right? But
right.
I think he has a chance to be one of the best players that we've seen in our life, in our short life, right? Me and you are so young. We haven't even seen that much basketball. So
Right.
like he could be one of the best players I've ever seen. I don't doubt it. And I think he immediately, to me as a rookie, is probably top 100, I think. Like he probably cracks, like he's that good. He's very skilled. So
Very.
to your point, I think it's just written. You saw my reaction. I was on the floor because Payne just saves Nico's ass, man. And uh, I'm excited to see what the Mavs do. Like they truly deserve this, kind of after all they've been through. Very lucky, and I think that's really exciting. But yeah, what is he going to bring to their team? Offense, another initiator, somebody that takes the pressure off of Kyrie or AD. And if Cooper Flag is getting going, well, then now we could play through Flag, and you got Kyrie, you got AD doing their thing. Like it's going to be pretty exciting. So that's shout out Dallas for sure. I got a
hmm
call from a Dallas fan just now. It was earlier in the pod. I don't know if you heard it, but I know why I got that call.
No, I didn't. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also kind of, going back to the reason why Nico ended up trading for AD, you're getting another defensive player in Cooper Flag as well. So, if he's right about the whole defense
So
win
bullshit,
championship,
bro. This is so bullshit.
that's crazy, bro. 1.8% chance to get the number 1 pick. That's what I'm telling you, bro. With those lottery odds, it's crazy.
It's the ping pong balls, bro.
I think they might have been the biggest. Well, obviously the Hawks and what Bulls might have been lower,
Nah, dude. Yeah, me.
but they
I don't
were
know if
no
anybody.
they barely missed. They barely missed the
Yeah,
play. Yeah, that might have been the biggest jump. That's a little sus, bro. That's a little sus.
sketchy, sketchy for sure.
But yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
just it's gonna be crazy seeing him in Dallas, bro. We definitely gotta go watch him play because
Oh yeah, for
obviously he's
sure.
a
Those tickets.
Dookie, but he's gonna be he's obviously gonna be. I know he's gonna be a great player in this league, and he might not be generational, quote unquote, but he's definitely gonna be able to contribute to winning basketball. So excited to see
You
what
think
he's able to bring.
Kawhi is generational? Like,
Nah, I think you asked me that question whenever like he got drafted. If he was, nah, he wasn't. But what he was able to do in the league, I think that's kind of what made him generational. If that makes sense.
yeah, I think
Kind of what you're saying
yeah,
about Flag, in a sense.
yeah. Like I think,
Different circumstances, of course. Kawhi wasn't a number one pick, but
yeah. I mean, it would be. I don't want to be stupid, but like it would be so funny if Harrison didn't take flag. I was just thinking about that in my head. That would just be like, how do you feel about that?
it would be. Obviously, it wouldn't be like a not drafting Wemby type of deal, but I think it is a consensus that he is gonna be the number one pick. So it's like, if you don't do that, then
Right.
what are you thinking of?
Yeah.
It could
I don't
happen.
know.
It could happen. You never know.
I could see him being like, no, but he's not. He's not going to be. I think he's got people in the room that understand.
I
Like,
think also that's
mm,
just a position that they also need as well. Because what position is he gonna be, a 4 or a 3? Because I feel like he could be a tweener type of deal.
yeah, I think so too. Uh, yeah, I don't. I think they could put him at the one, bro. I think if he, shit, he'll be able to play a lot of positions, but I think he'll be a three or a
Mm.
four.
Maybe they'll play like
Um,
a double big or something. AD
I
Gaffers.
don't. I think even if he was a point guard, they would take him. Like it's a regardless of fit.
Hmm.
We have the number one pick. It's
Right.
like it's like the Mavs would take Wemby if they had Lively. Like it's like it
Right.
doesn't matter. It
Right. Right.
doesn't
Right.
matter. We're gonna make that work. This is basketball. I love that for Dallas, dude, and I love how you brought that up earlier. Spurs too, man. What the hell? What the hell?
The
Just
heli.
yeah, just three lottery picks, which is great for them. Do you know where they acquired 13 from again? Was it Atlanta?
So okay,
Atlanta?
I'm reading this article. It like the way it was doing it was kind of weird. It's Hawks get the 13th pick, but don't the Hawks aren't they giving that pick to San Antonio?
Yeah, because DeJounte.
Okay, and then the Spurs also got the 14th pick though too. So that's where did that pick come?
Where did that come
Yeah,
from?
yeah. Hold up.
Right.
Let me look
Yeah,
it up.
that was my yeah, but the point is it's another haul for them, and they've been on fire and haven't missed. Obviously, they've gotten lucky with Castle, and I would say even more lucky with Wemby, right? So it's pretty hard to miss on those two guys. Back to back Rookie of the Years, by the way. Do you remember the last team that did that? Little trivia for you.
Back to back Rookie of the Years.
Yeah, it
Ooh,
happened.
nah, don't.
Look it up because you're gonna be like, ah. This is gonna be funny, but yes, super hard feat to do. Obviously, it's very rare, so you got to get lucky in the draft twice. I'm surprised. I'm surprised you're not thinking about it, dude. Think about it.
Hold up, hold up. Oh, duh.
Think about it. King
Cat
Clinton,
Wiggins,
baby.
yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on that one. Yes,
You got
sir.
me. You got me.
Obviously, David Robinson and Tim Duncan. So there you go. Like that's the Spurs organization just bleeds success, and I think them having you know, obviously that draft, like we don't need to talk about that because that was sketchy. But
I'm still trying to figure out how because I'm looking at like their draft picks. It says they have their own first round pick, and then they have Atlanta's. So I don't
yeah,
know
like
if
where did they
this,
get where the
unless,
hell?
bro, I'm so confused.
Yeah, that's really confusing. We'll have to find that.
Yeah,
Whatever. The
yeah.
point is they
Anyways,
do somehow, and they keep getting into these positions that just make them extremely successful.
yeah,
And unfortunately, I waited till the end of the pod to bring this one up, but they're going through that with Pop, and he's done. He's not coaching anymore, and he's El Jefe now, right? So he's not in the coaching chair. We got Mitch in there, which is great. But that young team, man, like Stephon Castle, Wemby, whoever they get, what's up?
So
You found
I found it. The Hawks
nice.
actually is the Hawks pick. So they got that pick from Sacramento. So they have the 13th
Oh,
pick. And then the Spurs ended up getting the 14th from the Hawks. And then that
makes
second
sense.
pick was their own. So
Was
they
their own.
yeah, okay. Now we're good. I'm all
That's clear.
I had to figure that out because I was like, what?
That's very clear.
Cuz
Yeah, that's super clear.
it did say Hawks, but I
It's
was like,
from it's for De'Aaron Fox.
yes.
Right? Yeah, I was
It
gonna
had
say
to
like
be.
Sacramento. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox. Wow. Wow. I know the Kings are pissed. That's what that means. Kind of. I know they're not in the lottery at all, and they would probably love to use a player like that right now because the Kings don't have. But anyways, yeah, the Spurs are just. This is gonna be an insane year for them coming up. Um, I feel bad for the Jazz, of course. You know, I thought they were gonna get Cooper Flag, but I was wrong. So just crazy draft lottery.
Yeah, I want to see everyone's draft like mock drafts now cuz
Yeah,
obviously
same.
cuz I'm looking at one right now, CBS Sports. They have obviously Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper, Trey Johnson, Edgecombe and then Bailey. But that's obviously with certain teams and stuff, but that's more than likely going to be. It's crazy Trey Johnson jumped up.
He's cold, bro. But the Sixers will take him. Like
Mhm.
that's number three.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
He's a
what
guard.
who
He's
do you think the
shifty.
Spurs are going to draft? Dylan Harper?
I was thinking like, bro. I was thinking you take like, this is where you can experiment. Maybe it's a bit too high. Maybe he might still be available, but I'll take Malawak, bro, and
Mm.
just be like, all right, 6'11" motherfucker. Like, let's think about Wemby. Let's see what you got. Like, let's see what you got.
That would be
I'm taking another big because you can get some guards. Like guards you can find, but you need to find those gem bigs. And if they have a twin towers like they used to, the Spurs are cold.
Spurs,
Yo,
bro.
yo, I gotta talk to Los because like that's crazy, bro. Like I know he's gonna be turned about that, but the Spurs are they're looking kind of cold for sure. That's exciting. What do you think? Who do you think they'll take?
I don't know. I think I wouldn't be
They could
mad if
take Harper.
yeah, I was about to say I wouldn't be mad if they took Dylan Harper. You know, having him next to De'Aaron Fox, I feel like that would be a crazy backcourt. You know, but like you said, if they're able to, you know, take a risk and get that twin tower lineup, that would be insane. Because
Yeah.
I know he's a great he's a great big, and to kind of complement Wemby, maybe would you still play Wemby at center and then put was it Malawak?
Hmm?
Would you put him at the four or vice versa?
Probably at the four.
Right. That's what I was
He's
thinking.
big though. He's
Yeah.
big though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I think maybe. Well, it's funny you asked that question. I'm glad you asked that. You might have to put Wemby at the four because he can dribble and do
Right.
it.
Right.
Mom, like Kuman might struggle a bit in the open court. You know who doesn't?
Wemby.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's what
like
I was
I didn't
thinking
think
too.
about that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
they
was
would probably
thinking
stick
too.
him at the five.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
crazy. But yeah, no. Like I said, I wouldn't be mad at shit Trey Johnson or
at
Dylan
Harper.
Harper.
Yeah,
Yeah, either one. I obviously
or
we
Trey
know
Johnson. Ooh, Trey Johnson. I didn't think about that. Yeah, for sure. It's
that might.
another good one.
Ooh, and he would be in Texas still. That'd be
Yeah, I was
crazy.
gonna say they could do that. I could
Hmm.
totally see that happening.
Because I feel like he complements De'Aaron. He probably complement De'Aaron Fox well because he's more of like a off the dribble type of guy. But if he needs to, he could probably handle it. But just he's a scorer, so I feel like that's something being at the two with De'Aaron Fox, that wouldn't be a bad pairing. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm excited to see these
We'll
mock drafts
see.
because
Yeah,
like I
we'll
said,
we'll
did.
definitely do our own
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
for sure.
But
For sure.
yeah,
We'll
crazy.
have to kind of gather all of our thoughts, analyze the situation, come up with the execution plan.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But hey, man, you got anything else for us, brother?
Nah, man. Thunder up, ready for this game 5. And just watch these hoops, bro. It's like I said, playoffs is
Yeah,
a great time of year, and we're getting to the almost the end of the season, so
getting
getting to
gritty.
the
Yeah,
conference finals, and then right after that the finals, man. Can't wait. So hopefully I think the boys will do good. Ready to see what they come out with. Hopefully that 2-3 zone doesn't destroy us again, but we'll see, man. Just ready to see
elementary. You
ready to
said it.
see elementary, bro. But yeah, no, just ready to watch the rest of this hoops and kind of see what these mock draft is. Now I'm kind of excited to see that.
Yeah, Cooper Flag kind of changed. Yeah, that made my day, bro, for sure. Shout out Dallas. Yeah, Thunder up, baby. I'm a Thunder fan right now. Going for the Thunder. Cavs are probably cooked, so it's definitely the Thunder and another Eastern Conference team. But I'm excited to figure that out. So, yeah, watch NBA basketball. Obviously, if you guys like the episode, leave a like, comment, subscribe. That's gonna do it for your boys over here at Three Man Weave. Three,
Three man,
three
three
man
man, three man.
peace.
Peace.
Yeah.